First thing is that we strongly feel that the on-bill reduction, all right, the impact of it actually was to camouflage problems that existed long before on-bill was here. If you look at balance of payments statistics, you see that for sometimes, especially since the 70s, I believe, we had a declining balance of payment. And what the on-bill situation did, combined too with the Ebola, was actually to camouflage and delay those actions which we should have taken much earlier. If you remember, during the 70s, there were a lot of efforts to diversify the economy. We had cocoa, coffee, even the encouragement of palm oil, and so many other products. When they were trying to diversify, right? Now, so that's number one. So the problem existed long before on-bill came, and what it did was to camouflage the problem. And instead of us addressing the problem, we delayed addressing those problems. The report talks about commodity-based economy, but there are other economies that are also commodity-based, and we see tremendous performance. I haven't been to, say, Rwanda, but they've been through a similar crisis, or a worse crisis than what we have been through. And from the pictures and those who have been there, I see tremendous improvements and turnaround. To me, the issue has been largely a question of choices and us making those hardcore decisions, which probably because of on-bill camouflage, and we delayed those actions. Lastly, I just want to mention diversification. Diversification is key, but there are certain fundamental issues that need to be addressed, whether we diversify or not, and affect all decisions. Just to name a few, the issue of currency, all right, is a major issue, especially when we're talking about attracting investment. The depreciation of our dollar is supposed to make our products more competitive. It's supposed to make our more competitive, all right? But unfortunately, because we have our expenses are based in U.S. dollars, we don't have the impact of that depreciation to make our products more competitive on the global market. Another issue that we have which affects all, whether we diversify or not, has been labor productivity. Labor productivity. We have a decent work bill that was passed, which sets a minimum wage rate. But the fact of the matter is, there's no linkage between payment and productivity, which makes our labor very expensive and uncompetitive when we get on the global market. Another major issue affecting diversification strategy is, especially when you talk about going downstream and getting into value addition manufacturing, is our cost of electricity. Our cost of electricity is still very high. There has been some minor decreases. We haven't had that outreach, and we haven't had that sort of impact. And if we are to benefit from any diversification, we have to be competitive globally, and the cost of power is a major factor. And we believe that, unfortunately, there's no little transparency when it comes to electricity. We have a rate, but it's not clear on whether that rate is just or whether it's too high relative to the cost of what they're doing. And I think we need to have more transparency in that, and so as to make any diversification very competitive on the global market. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Mr. Dennis, what's your thought on the team coming out of the diversification?
All right, thank you very much. I think the consultant did a good work to analyze the critical impact of on-bill, and he proposed one of the key recommendations coming up with the diversification of the economy. Dennis rapidly outlined, you can diversify, but then you need to look at identify the key economic sectors that you can diversify in to be able to enhance the kind of impact, the domino effect on the economy. My point will look at both fiscal policy and also monetary policy linkages. As the country currently undergo a current deficit, repeated current deficit in current account, and also deficit in our reserve. If you look at the report, they clearly indicated that with the withdrawal of on-bill, I'm going to talk with 34.4 billion foreign, exchange foreign reserve, and that reduced our reserve drastically. We also had an impact of Ebola, and we saw a lot of our economic activity drawn down, and so a lot of investment into Liberia actually reduced. That kind of reduced our foreign reserve drastically. We have low economic activities along the corridor of growth. We see that so many things in that should actually kind of improve our revenue. For example, we export-based, an import-based economy. We look at money, we look at rubber, we saw the prices dropping down. And so all that clearly significantly impacted our reserve. The problem we have is that we have not created a demand for our local currency to be able to counteract some of the international external economic shock. We need to create that demand for the local currency. One of the things that we can do, which is very, very critical, is to increase the capacity, the production capacity for export. Of course, Liberia has a lot of economic planning constraints. We talk about infrastructure deficit, we talk about growth, which are key indicators and key input to production. We need to look at unlocking those key constraints so that we can improve to a larger extent our productive capacity, that we will be able to attract more investors into the country. I don't think that people normally look at and overlook is the governance system. Investors look at the system and they want to look at credibility, they want stability in the governance system. You go to the court, for example, we have so many cases that the court are actually passed, locked up because there is weak enforcement. You don't have an investor that will come and bring in millions of dollars, and if there's a contract issue, they go to court, they win the case, and the ruling cannot be enforced. If you look at Liberia business, doing business in Liberia index, we dropped a lot with the recent report, because the judicial, the human rights, and the legal system needs to improve, needs to create that condition that can be able to attract from direct investment, that will, in a way, improve the demand for the Liberian dollar currency. We also need to unlock some of the key constraints in human capacity development. Somebody talk about high tech. A lot of our students feel in mathematics because maybe there is no training. It's the training in mathematics. And so we need to improve a lot in our human capacity development so that those key sectors that we need to drive our economic growth, we can have the manpower here, we can have the expertise to be able to push that forward. So it's both on the macroeconomic point of view, looking at the fiscal issue, looking at monetary issue, also look at the governance parts that provide the conducive environment for growth and recovery.
Thank you. Thank you. Anthony Dollar, what's your own perspective on the finding from the report?
Thank you very much. I feel a bit intimidated sitting around all these wonderful and great economists, being a simple lawyer, but I'll try to answer that question. Diversification is, of course, important. As Honorable Dennis and Dr. Davis has stated, we've seen a major impact to our economy, not just from unmilled drawdown. This study showed, and other studies have shown, that the impact of unmilled on the local economy is not really significant. So the more significant drivers of our economy have been impacted. The significant decrease in iron ore prices, 2012, 2013, I think iron ore prices were like $160. And now it's like less than $50. You have, we're not rubber, the same impact of rubber. At the time that Ebola happened, we had so much expectation for certain mining companies to come online, and that would, improve the economy and promote growth in other sectors, and that didn't happen. because of Ebola. So I think in terms of diversification, certainly we need it. But I think that what we can, you know, Dr. Tenney, when he was talking before, he talked about things we can do now. I think value addition now is very important. We have there are ways to improve our ore, for example. We're the only West African country right now producing iron ore. There are ways to improve our iron ore so that our iron ore producers can compete with producers like Brazil and Australia. Value addition, and that's something we can do now. And I think, you know, what's happening a lot now is you have this administration really trying to push for that type of value addition, because that's something that can make an impact now. Even in terms of the forestry sector, we have old rubber trees that, you know, can be exported, you know, that can be used. So I think diversification is great, and we know the agriculture sector is our #1 priority. But I definitely think value addition, especially now, is really the key to jumpstart the kind of growth we were talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get your view on this, Mr. Kamara. What's your view on that?
I think, thank you very much for this very eloquent presentation. I think the question about diversification is no longer a debate. What I'm concerned about right now is about how to pursue this particular agenda and when. From the report, I was quite happy about some of the very salient recommendations, and I was very much impressed that the report actually did concentrate a lot about the issue of fragility. I think in the quest for diversification, we should focus on how we confront fragility and to build resilience so that the prosperity can be shared, and that as we pursue this, it will be done in a more sustainable fashion. What I see from all of this about investing in agriculture and services. Thirdly, we should also focus on making investments in social capital, especially, as many people have said around this room, issues about roads, bridges, health systems, and education, so as to ensure that the relevant capacities preparatory to the diversification drives are in place. We should actually ensure fiscal discipline, especially within the budget process, and this is where I would normally dwell on. If we want to ensure that we contain our debt level, if we want to ensure that we are preferred in terms of external assistance, we should be seen as providing the means and the evidence that we are continuing our public expenditures in a way that recurrent expenditure do not displace the potential for a private investment to triumph. We should be able to change the structure of our budget pattern in ways that reduces discretionary allowances, in ways that reduces the volume of recurrent expenditure, and in ways that promote private sector investment, creating wealth and prosperity. What I wanted to really highlight is the concern about the oil palm hallelujah chorus in this room. Yes, oil palm is a very good thing, but I have a little concern in terms of the potential displacement of populations in respect to alternative livelihoods. We should take that into account. And I wanted to innovatively share an idea whether this is workable in this room. I'm a landowner. If an investor of oil palm came to me, can I have an equity stake based on my ownership of land? So rather than actually taking the land away from me, can I make a choice as an individual to say, look, I want to have an equity stake in this company using my land ownership? This is something we need to consider and something we need to take into account very critically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. To you, Dr. Tenney, what was your take on the recommendation coming out of the consultant's report?
Again, excuse me for my bias. And it is deeply entrenched in my long years in the classroom. Because the report shortfall in presenting a causality effect, we do not know what variable brings out causes another variable. It means that we will produce a template version of how we see it. Diversification is indeed a way to go.
but we are looking at diversification on the macro level. Have we considered the little things that we tend to not see? For example, Mali. Mali is the highest exporter of cow. What does cow need? Grass. Liberia has abundance of grass. Are we not thinking of exporting grass to Mali, or creating a G discussion where the government of Mali will tell the private sector that engage in animal husbandry like cow, to bring in a cow to Liberia, since we have grass just all over the place? The little things that matter is what we tend to not see. We are importing frozen fish. When everywhere in the country you have some form of stream, the whole country is surrounded by river, and yet we are importing frozen fish. Are we not also thinking about getting into fish cultivation? I mean, we're looking at medium and long-term activity when the short run is what will really solve our problem. And again, that has to do with my earnest bias. I see things from the macro level, the MI level, that tend to add value. When we speak of diversification, we are talking about not relying on a particular set of commodities, but how can we ensure that those commodities that we have reliance on is complemented by other commodities. And the essence of diversification is it tends to bring in additional revenue in the country. We have a lot of leakages in this country. We import $12 to $15 million worth of pepper. Pepper. We import groundnut in this country, ground beef. What are we doing? We have people who have developed even at the minimum level. All you just need is the translation of policy into work. I'll give you an example. We at Luca, we have been in our second month. Are you aware that Liberia will have forfeited an additional 200 nautical miles in the sea? The UN climate change asked coastal country to extend their nautical miles. What did they tend to achieve? We have more access to international water. That means we have more people fishing in our international waters. Liberia was working on a document for the last 6 years. In fact, it has been abandoned. When we took over ANOCA, it's just a review of document. When the president went to the UN General Assembly, I sent a 2-page document to the president and CEO of ANOCA. Said, can they ask the president of Liberia to request UN General Assembly for an extension? Today, Maritime and local team is working on the paper to extend Liberia's nautical map. It's just 2 months of small thinking. So imagine if 12 years of small thinking have created a value addition. We will not have potholes all over the country. We have iron all over the place. Then you can go to the southeast when Putu Mountain is there. The solution to modern road Iraq. You have Putu Mountain there, then you can go to Grand Cru. You don't need rocket science, not a PhD to think small. It's just the willpower to think efficiently. So indeed, diversification is just a way to go. But how do you diversify? Think small to acquire big results. Thank you.
Think small to acquire big results. Now, I'm making it last because you're going to have a greater say in most of what is being discussed here today. So just give me your perspective on the consultant's report, the recommendation coming from it, and then we'll actually begin the discussion from a very serious point of view from you.
Thank you. Let me firstly extend my thanks to the consultant, Mr. Thompson, and his team for projecting some of the issues that the country faced due to the departure of Omnia. And as others have mentioned earlier, deal with. We have the issue of the Ebola crisis. In 2014, we had the drop in our prices of our major commodities, agriculture, commodities, iron ore, and rubber. We also had a very prolonged electoral process. And maybe a lot of us have not picked that up, but if you look at the electoral process we had that took us all the way into December, you will see that people who also had the intention of coming to do business in Liberia pushed back their plans to wait until the election. And even after inauguration, they will still have a wait and see attitude. So the economy is faced with multiple shocks. And those shocks certainly we believe can be taken care of or could be handled if we look at issues from the diversified point. And I like the way he tried to mention a couple of things, kind of recommending things that we can do to move the economy forward. And I think we've done a lot of conversations around talking. We've been very good at talking. All the things, we know the solutions. We know what are the issues we have to do. If you sit in an economy where your economy is basically a consuming economy, where you're inputting everything that you have to do, you have to live on. You are inputting everything, you're heading for trouble. And this is where we are. So on-bill drawdown is one thing, then we're looking at all the other issues. The last time I was driving, my wife and I, were going, somewhere up country. And we're just looking along the road in places usually you will find food crops or food products, farm products. And we're looking for plantain. We drove, I don't know, about 3-4 hours looking along the roadside to find plantain. And we couldn't find plantain. And that is something that you just put a head somewhere in the ground there, maybe after 3 months, 4 months, you have a beautiful farm and a set of, trees growing and so on and so forth, and you'll be able, so issue of diversification is not a question. For me, it's not an issue as to whether we even have an option to say, as a country, whether we want to. We must. We must diversify the economy in order to be able to take it from where it is to move it into a much prosperous situation as we see it. And so we have to, it's about how we look at it from the side of the table we sit, and how we put things together and organize it so that we are able to get this concept or issue of diversification from the table.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Flomo. You agree on support to diversification emanating from this POPO agenda?
So what we've done, as usual, the minister mentioned this morning, we've completed the agenda, which is supposed to be the tool that we will use to move, the country in the next 5 years, and moving the country towards a prosperous, nation or status. The goal might be very ambitious, but our plan is to, in the POPO agenda, to take about 1 million people or more out of poverty. And so it's based around 4 pillars. Pillar 1, we're looking at power to the people, looking at all the infrastructural gaps, which Mr. Dennis tries to point at. Issues of infrastructure is a challenge. Can we grow an effective economy without addressing the infrastructural issues? No. If we must grow the economy, then we have to look at the infrastructural issues. So the president in that plan is highlighting road as one of the key infrastructural concerns to look at. We also looking at economy and jobs. Now this is where the research and the recommendation come in, from the concern about diversifying also fits in. If you're talking about creating jobs, and there's a sector that already have people spending more of their time, though the result thereof is very small, but they have a style, they have a lifestyle, they have a culture associated to that sector. So why don't we move around the sector where we have more people gravitating or more people already living and have the mind and have the culture. So agriculture is also highlighted as being that pillow that we can hold on to move the economy in order to get us become successful. So in terms of fiscal discipline, he mentioned some of the concerns about that. And to be honest with you, this is, I mean, at least for the last 16, 17, 18 years, I've been in the private sector here, and maybe not because I'm in government now, but I see that this government has been able to take some very hard fiscal decisions. And if we want to succeed as a government, this is where we need to keep pressing. For example, when the president, when the decision was taken that, look, everyone in the serving minister from here, you can't be beyond this.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
Specifically on the diversification issue that talk about agriculture, what are specific activities that the finance ministry has in mind to actually invest in the agriculture sector, to invest in it?
Yeah, so fiscal discipline and then link that to the agriculture thing has to do with giving us the space in order to be able, because when we take this decision, the extra savings, we're able to use it now to do these extra investments. So in the agriculture sector, for example, low-hanging fruit, this morning we talk about special economic zones. There's a thought around creating special economic zones around our staple food. For example, rice. We import a little over $200 million of rice. Is it possible for us to move to the rice-producing corridors of Liberia and turn that corridor into a more productive rice producing area? If the answer is yes, like we've been talking with the Ministry of Agriculture, they say Bon Lofa Nima as it was before the war, they were known as the rice-producing corridor. So can we go back to them and use those counties to produce rice in a structured way? So I come to you, the Agriculture Ministry, for example, over the last years received more than agriculture sector, not the ministry necessarily, but the sector, received more than 300 million, maybe for the last 5 years. But what is happening in the agriculture sector is the way we organize it, we believe, that is going to make the more impact. So we believe that putting it in the framework of the special economic zone will be able to help us. So using one end as the production side and the other end at the value addition side, which has to do now with adding, processing, and grading, and whatever we need to do to be able to upskill that.
So basically, that's the government strategy in SC agriculture.
That is what we're looking at.
From the extractive industry point, Dr. Ten, studies have shown that resource curse exist in Africa due to lack of good institutional and regulatory structures, as has been emphasized by the two panelists on your extreme left. How can OCA make sure that the oil resource is seen more as welfare and social welfare enhancing rather than a curse? And what is OCA's own strategy in supporting the proposal?
Well, the NOCA we inherited is a strange place. We inherited $5.1 million. We had to borrow $1 million from the Ministry of Finance. When I say it was a strange place, at some point in time, the annual budget for NOCA was only $2 million annual budget. We were paying $22 million every year to the employees there. And one thing that captured my attention was boat travel was 2.2 million. So I requested whether people were going to heaven. Because you spend $2.2 million just to travel, you wonder where you're traveling. So I requested, is that a free ticket to heaven? But again, you see, because of the kind of nature people see as controversial, but sometimes many things seem not to make sense. And because we find ourselves in certain era, we can't really say many things. But many things were done here grossly violating the conscience. Grossly violating the conscience. The issue of resource curse, right? It's just a way of few people trying to hijack the wealth of the country through what we call the rentier effect, meaning that people will tend to cross-eye other areas that will be generating revenue simply because they want to amass wealth from the resource, so it gives rise to the resource curse. And I'm not a geoscientist, but it did not take me a long time to figure out that there are reports that says that we're really looking for the oil in the wrong place. And honestly, when I pulled up one of the facts, we saw that most of our oil is on the continental shelf inland instead of offshore. I didn't do geoscience to know what that language was. It was just in pure English. Two, we have the Harper Basin that everybody seems to be attracted to. And there's a particular block in the Harper Basin, block 3, that everybody wants, because it has 95 to 98% of potential oil. But the Harper Basin is man. So what we need to leverage on is our ability to think properly.
So since you took over at the local, what have you done to constrain the fiscal indiscipline that
well, we have been in compliance with the presidential mandate to slice salaries, and of course you don't want to get some of the salaries of the people in the past. You don't want to get it. And then imagine local sending people out to do master degree in criminal justice. They spend $112,000 to send somebody outside like to do criminal justice. What do we need in the oil sector? It's not just to train people with master degree in any of the geosciences. What about the master degree? Are we not looking in the direction of empowering the vocational and technical institution to train industrial panel beater? Because if you do discover oil, the hourly rate of a panel beater is $120 every hour. That is a non-degree renting profession. And because you have zero industrial panel beater, you will be importing panel beater from Turkey. And calling them expatriates, they just panel beater putting fire to iron.
so
Why not train your own people in a short-term certificate granting program and equip them for the future prospect of production?
is that what you're doing now currently?
It's just what we call strategy. They call it strategy. The way to put strategy and translate it into real work is to empower the MVTC. So instead of sending people to pay $120,000 on criminal justice, just give a fraction to MVTC to equip a particular session into panel beating. That's common sense.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Teddy, for giving us all an intricate so you, Mr. Dennis, you serve as a president of the Chamber of Commerce before. Now, according to the 2018 World Bank Doing Business Report, time for completing trade transaction, that is import and export, has increased when compared to the sub-Saharan average, considering border compliance and documentation. Now, the actual numbers are 8 days compared to 4 days for export and 9 days compared to 5 days, that is the sub-Saharan regional average for imports. As someone who understands the working of the Chamber of Commerce and the business environment, what do you think the government of Liberia can do in order to minimize these technical barriers to trade to facilitate growth, especially when we have MSMEs, those medium, small, micro enterprises that will actually need to trade more with the rest of the world?
Actually, to the best of my knowledge, there have been some improvements in the processes of trade, in particular at the borders, right? But I think the problem that we have largely is what happens within the borders. Whereas, as I said, there have been improvements in terms of reducing the number of transactions, their banking facilities within the port and nearby. There are still some problems which we're aware of. We're working on those. But as I said, compared to the past, there have been some problems. I think the greater problems really are doing business measures within the border. All right, getting certain documentation done. They talk about construction permits being one of them. Even something as basic as transportation. Like I said, at the border, it may take you less time to get your goods in and out, all right? But when you have to take 2 hours to get from the port to your destination, I mean, that's a hindrance to business.
That's found out on some of the structural issues that have been coming out of the discussion here. So, to you, Mr. Kamara, you're from the donor community, and we need to diversify the economy. We need to do diversification, the value addition around palm oil. And Dr. Tenny said, when you just throw a pepper water there, you get pepper, and then we need to look at other produces outside the palm sector. So what's in mind from UNDP towards to complement the pro-poor agenda? What's in mind from the donor community?
I can go on explaining a lot in this regard, but allow me to digress a little bit why, particularly as Dr. Tenney struck a very important point on thinking outside the box, and little things matter. I think we need to actually think outside the box and ensure that the little things that are within our reach, we try to take hold of them before looking at the bigger things outside our reach. For example, as I said, what stops us from fostering a procurement leverage program with multinational companies and small SMEs, so that SMEs within the localities where these companies operate can have access or can tap into procurement opportunities? What stops us from forging business linkage programs with these companies? What stops us from providing and requiring that development partners orient their support towards initiatives that can add the greatest value to wealth creation? What stops us from doing that? We have an opportunity to do that. What stops us from change of our attitude in terms of dietary preferences? If we produce we produce banana and it's not consumed, we cannot have a local market for that. We need to change our dietary preferences. Look at this panel, with the exception of him. All of us are wearing imported attire. Can we promote? Yeah. All of us here. We need to change our attitude. How can we promote the local tailoring shops to produce? How can we do that? We need to change our consumer behavior in order to reduce the import dependence, because if you are producing what is locally produced, you are consuming what is locally produced, you can actually alter the extent of the import dependence. But then back to your question, in terms of what the UNDP is doing, firstly, we are supporting the articulation of the current national plan to ensure that A, the plan is actually oriented towards the national priorities and the development challenges such as vulnerability, poverty, and so on and so forth. B, that the plan is marketable and is able to address the fundamental problems and challenges facing the country, and that we can provide the support to rally external support around this plan. But before then, you will note that UNDP has been in the forefront of strengthening the capacities locally to ensure that services are delivered to people. Right now, you will agree with me, we do have a business opportunity through support services programs within the different counties, and we are actually supporting including governance reform and ensuring that the budget is oriented to the plan. Let me inform you that if we were to look at the 2006 national budget, the current wage rate of the 2006 national budget is not the same as the current the current wage rate is not the same as the wage rate of the 2006 national budget. So if you want to reach out to external partners, you need to be seen as managing the little that you have yourself. So for example, discretionary allowances, can we seek to harmonize them? I know this is going to be an issue of resistance, but because discretionary allowance afford people to get access to power, loyalty, because you can decide how much is given to A, B, and C. Even though it also fosters the issue of promoting work culture, but it has a lot of issues. Can you harmonize them? Can we look at what is within our means and ensure that, as the attorney said, they are taking some action, but they're being inadequate as a demonstration of what needs to be done. So we also need to ensure that external partners and ourselves also do work together on issues that matter most to the national economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of the economy in general, it might well be the case that to you, Dr. Davis, it will be the case that the constraint to growth can be seen in the form of governance issue or the legal regulatory environment. So the research report stressed restoration of peace and security as the greatest impact of UNMIL's presence in Liberia. In line with this, the research report also outlined challenges facing the Liberian economy, that's including potentials for unemployment. He said there's a potential for unemployment which is high, and loss of income in services provided by youth. With such a portrait of the economy, there's a potential for increasing crime, rape, and civil disorder, which could trigger national security implications. In addition to this, the absence of UNMIL created a gap in manpower and logistics for the security sector. How prepared is the Ministry of Justice as a representative for the security sector here to create a legal and safer environment that supports social cohesion and economic growth?
Okay, thank you very much. When UNMIL plan was developed, if I let me just inform the public that the government developed a transition plan called the Government Electoral Plan for UNMIL Transition, which clearly articulate the key processes and the key capacity building initiative and policy initiative that government will undertake to assume the critical security tasks that UNMIL perform. So that plan has been fully implemented to a large extent. One of the things that the plan sought to achieve, that because of the fiscal constraints, we could not get the needed financing to be able to equip our sector to a level that will be able to respond to critical incidents. Is looking at the policy environment. For example, we have a new act for the Liberia National Police. We have a new act for the Liberia Immigration Service. There has been administrative regulations that have been developed that look at manpower development, that look at capacity building initiatives, that look at our policy around human security. Now, Liberia, we always think peace is the absence of conflict, but there are still underlying fragilities. For example, lack of trust in government services could create conditions for chaos, and that could be a serious impact on our economic recovery. One of the things that we are looking at currently with the National Development Plan is to be able to decrease violent tendencies across Liberia. In fact, the research was done on the sector. So we are moving from a more reactive response to a more proactive response, wherein security officers working in communities be able to address issues at community level so that some of the burning issues that will turn into bigger problems could be handled at community level. We are training them in community engagement tactics. We are training them in peace building tactics. We also looking at reactivating the peace of we call it peace of program, and then introducing awareness around economic opportunities, because we are looking forward to ensure that our people explore some of the economic opportunities that are available on the proposed agenda. So the peace hub now will not only looking at violence, looking at crime, but to be able to create awareness on those key economic opportunities that they can explore to be able to make their life better. We are also looking forward to professionalize the security sector. We know a lot of our security officers are being very professional in terms of the way they interact with the police. So as a result, we are establishing a civilian report mechanism wherein civilians can report cases of even corruption, cases of police brutality, and those cases will be heard when the board that is established will look at carefully, and the key issues when it comes to punishment will be leveled against them. All of the things that will increase the kind of confidence in the security sector, and also to reduce the violent tendencies that are many among Liberians.
Okay, thank you. Anthony Doyer, you're from the Ministry of Justice and have understanding of economics and justice.
I think the critical role that justice plays in terms of making sure that investors feel secure, that you provide a secure environment for investors, is just making sure that our laws, that we implement the laws properly. Like Dr. Davis mentioned, we have the laws, but investors don't have confidence in our systems. And you know, we have great laws on the books. But if someone comes and there's a dispute, you know, over an investment rather, they don't want to litigate it here in Liberia. You got to go to London or Paris or whatever. So creating investor confidence means that as Ministry of Justice, we have to help the government to implement the laws in a way that is impartial and predictable. That's what laws should be. I'm sorry, I forgot it, but the second half of your question.
It's about attracting foreign direct investment and settling dispute between
Oh, right. You talked about the Land Rights Act. So the new Land Rights Act, and Mr. Kamara talked about can I as a landowner give my land? The new Land Rights Act specifically gives a landowner a seat at the table. Unlike what happened and created such conflict with, let's say, Golden Petroleum and other concessionaires where government granted land and then there's all these issues with communities. The law says now the communities own the land, and so the communities get to say, one, how much they get for their land. They negotiate with the concessionaire holders. And in fact, government can't negotiate for them. They have a seat at the table, they make the determination. I think that's one thing that actually improves also the ability to get investors when the framework is clear. So now investors know, no, government cannot just guarantee me that I can get in and land inside of, I have to negotiate with this community, you know, whether it's through government or not, but this community gets a stake in that.
Mr. Kamara, I see you nodding to what you say. Are you in full agreement with what you
Yes,
say?
because I have a very important point I should talk about.
Yeah.
And that is about not just having the concessions agreement in place, but also ensuring that communities have free and prior informed consent about the engagement of those concessions in those communities. But at the same time, also fostering a platform for that, for continuing dialogue. And I want to applaud the National Bureau of Concessions with our support for an initiative we call the Multi-Stakeholder Platform that then provides an opportunity for concession companies, the government, other private actors, and other non-governmental organizations, civil society, to have a seat at the table, where they can have a discussion around the social development agreement and the responsibility of the concession company, and at the same time mitigate conflict before the argument spiral out of control. I think these are very interesting platforms that are in place, and it's important to actually have them. But
Is there any point that you disagree with coming from our explanation. Isn't there any point?
I totally
But do you
agree.
disagree with something I said?
No, I don't know, so that's why I'm
So
asking.
I
That's why we,
try to buttress some point that this is very important, that communities have a seat at the table, but not just as individual communities, but also with the government and other stakeholders in the platform that is engaging and that avoids conflict before it's put out of control.
okay.
Thank you.
So when we have a more calm investment climate, we tend to actually attract foreign direct investment also. So to you, Mr. Kamara, we know from an economic point of view that predicting an economic variable observation as well is a challenging issue, and Dr. Tene will bear witness to that. And with all else equal, in your opinion, how can we help our GDP grow rate, right? Since in fact we need to grow the country and we have some structural challenges to be still at a high that will make us implement our national plans, which is expected to reduce our debt to GDP ratio, because we need to have access to international financial market in order to grow the economy. One of the things coming out from the report was that there is a limit to which you can grow as a country, and that help of our economy is seen from the balance of payment also. And you don't just go out and borrow the financial market gets nervous. I think you don't borrow more than 40% of GDP. And from the Maastricht Treaty, that's around 3% of the current account deficit. So as an economist and someone who works with donor partners, what's your take on how we can pull the economy from this steady state in order to have a prosperous a nation moving forward?
Okay, thank you very much. I will share with you this very extensive document that I wrote in that regard, which I actually did on the plane of where I was coming.
Wow.
I think you need to take into account that what the report spoke about earlier on, I like to translate that into what I call confronting fragility, building resilience towards a sustainable development path. This in itself entails that we must grow the economy in the most sustainable fashion and limit our debt to GDP ratio. So that debt to GDP ratio actually is telling us our ability to pay off our debts. All right. So if we owe so much debt in a way that we are not able to pay off, we can let them mortgage the country. If all the amount we generate in the GDP will go to debt payment, there is nothing we can invest in. The lender professor can tell you that we need to contain our debt level and ensure that it is sustainable. So we actually need to focus on macroeconomic stability. So macroeconomic stability, in my view, does not guarantee that you grow. But macroeconomic stability is guaranteed that you actually grow. So I want to stop here.
Okay, before we reach to Professor Tene, who seems to have a good understanding of the macro and fiscal interplay on the economy, let's take the view of Honorable Brumbo on this whole fiscal discipline and having restricted your debt to GDP ratio. So what are specific fiscal policies, like fiscal rules that the Ministry of Finance is coming out with in order to actually cage the debt?
So the first thing we need to look at is what we already have on our books. We have close to $1 billion already on the books. And when we got in, we tried to match the $1 billion to that of what it was borrowed to do. And if we are not able to twist the impact of the $1 billion, then everyone else in the financial world kind of feel shaken, because at the point that we have to begin to repay, we will not have the ability to repay. The minister mentioned something this morning. For example, we borrowed to build a road from Liberia Junction to Buchanan. Now we built a beautiful road to go to Buchanan. We have no economic activity along that corridor. So yes, we've already put some loans on the books, and it's due X years from now. We have nothing to turn that investment around to bring us return. So, quick to the answer, what we are now adopting as a government is to link our borrowing to specific investments that will bring us return. so that when the time comes that we need to pay, we won't be looking for source of revenue to pay that money. So for example, the roads, our president is talking about building the road to the southeast. Is it important? Yes. But is that all to build the road to the southeast? No. We have to tie that road to some economic activity that will make people make use of the road and eventually bring return to the country.
Look at the current scope of the government finance, and let's say one step ahead prediction of what it will be tomorrow. Do you think there's a scope to have finances to actually do these things?
Yes, there are scope. We still have windows. Where everyone get, like I said earlier, everyone get afraid is when you don't begin to borrow responsibly and you don't tie them to projects. What we're trying to do is when you borrow, your borrowing must be tied to particular output. You are tying this to say, if we borrow this and we invest this, we'll achieve this, and in the next couple of years, over the time of this. So we have said at our Department of Economic Management that every bit of project or loan that we're going after, we're going to make sure we do a full economic analysis. There's going to be a full economic analysis that says what return we're going to get in the next couple of years after we invest this amount. So that at that time, we have the ability to look for the money to pay. And if we cannot pay, then we know we have all the issues. So it's all about how we are able to address our fiscal,
To you, Professor Tenney, you seem to have intricate understanding of the dialectics he was trying to raise between fiscal policy and monetary policy synergy. So what do you think? Is it that monetary policy should be the one complementing fiscal policy? Should there be fiscal dominance, or should there be monetary dominance in order to drive the economy going forward? What's the perspective? Do you totally agree with the views of Honorable Flombo and Mr. Tamara?
When education does not marry reality, you have a still birth. It's a human being or a dead human being. One of the things that tend to restrict our movement is the imposition of foreign precepts without us validating whether those precepts or those concepts are applicable to our locale. Somebody tells you that there's a threshold at which you can borrow. They phrase it as debt to GDP ratio. And then they peg your GDP at an estimate of $2 billion. Exactly. Look, the way out of it is rebasing that GDP. You change the whole thing to an estimate beyond.
So you're pushing for a rebasing of the GDP. Do you think that the international partners will accept that?
You are the architect of your policy, not them. You must be the custodian of the drive. If they pay you at $2 billion and they tell you that you cannot borrow beyond 30%, for heaven's sake, what will you get money to build a road?
So you, Mr. Kamara, you from the donor community. I think you work with UNDP. You have some.
But
No, I just want to get to that point. I think you have some understanding of the IMF World Bank and all the issues. How do you take his?
We as development partners have come to accompany and be responsive to the government's priorities. If the government so thinks that a rebasing of GDP is an utmost priority, we are lying behind. But let me say that the concept of a debt to GDP ratio is not solely intended as a conditionality. Now, in this regard, let's take the debate for that. It's not intended solely as a conditionality, but as something to watch out for in terms of the sustainability and the ability for you to repay. If a GDP is even increased to 5 billion in terms of rebasing, and the debt is 6 billion, it will still be a debt to GDP ratio.
Okay, take you on that point.
Rebasing is not a principal question. Rebasing will favor the government if it has a higher level of GDP because it can borrow more in the rebasing context. If that's a priority, and that I think we pursue.
So yeah, so you provided facts, you provided reason for why we should take this view. To you, Professor Tenney, now, can you please continue and tell this forum or why should take the lead? Should it be fiscal dominance or monetary dominance?
No, in our context, you need fiscal dominance because the monetary aspect is a tricky one. We have a dollarized economy. It means that our monetary policy is not absolutely in our domain. It's not absolutely in our domain. So, when you read this, you create more leverage in terms of engaging in more project-driven activities, right? Now, don't just focus on road building, because the same road that will take the people will be the same road that will bring the people from the villages. The Dutch disease must be avoided. So it's not just building roads, but how do you ensure that you do not introduce the Dutch disease, where people who have not seen the post-stop area will now leave the villages to come to Monrovia because of urbanization. We call that urbanization. So there has to be, in parallel to the plan to build the road to the southeast, a plan to retain the people in the southeast. And there must be a set of programs, right? A set of programs to avoid the Dutch disease. You are aware that the latest statistic, the southeast has one of the lowest birth rates. I was doing a paper for publication and I was wondering, well, why? And when I look at the demographics, it is just so easy to know why. A man will take 2 hours to go to visit his girlfriend to the village. How do you born plenty children when you have to be tired walking 2 hours? Common sense. So if you create an enabling environment for people to have interaction in a shorter period of time and of convenience, you have more people being produced in the southeast. But if you have to walk 2 to 3 hours to go visit your friend, what energy you have to do other things?
All right.
So there must be programs.
Thank you. Anthony Cole, I think you have a disagreeing view to
Not necessarily.
Okay, I think that.
I have more of a question. I just am trying to think about it in my personal life. If I make $500 and I go to a bank to borrow money, no bank is going to give me $2,000, right? So my question is, when we talk about rebasing the economy, and I don't understand it, I just want to know, what are we rebasing it on? Like, what is it that's going to take what we have now that it says is $2 billion, that's going to take it to $4 billion? What is it that we're rebasing it on?
Exactly. What are the fundamentals driving that rebasing of the economy, of the GDP? What are some of those things you're looking at?
All you need to do is to capture the informal sector.
Exactly.
I'll tell you something, the Ugandans, their economists observed a very important phenomenon, the proliferation of churches. What they will simply do, the churches will pay taxes all the time. And you know how much they generated? Additional $3 billion in the economy. Every corner you turn, some kind of mark calls they call it church. Don't stop them. Every collection you impose tax on it. You will generate income. So the God that we must serve him will all benefit through the process.
So you, Dr. Davis, Dr. David, this is a traditional stuff, right? We have more morality.
I'm a lawyer, but I don't think so. No, there is. Okay, well, so there's a lawyer that says you cannot tax churches. All right. So that's a different. But okay, there's a lawyer that says that.
Okay, can we get some?
Okay, but what I want to say is, hello. What I want to say, we can expand our tax base. I mean, we just made a reference to Uganda and using our church, but of course, we have a lot of areas that are untouched that we can expand our revenues, is so that we can increase revenue. One of the things that I wanted let's also touch on is how do we address inequality and corruption to deal with some of the potential Dutch disease that may arise if we have increases in our revenue from exportation. We actually want to see a kind of full-fledged strategy in addressing that so that we have our people benefiting from the revenue, not just a revenue that will benefit a few, but that will benefit everyone. But definitely we can expand the tax base and we can increase the GDP.
Thank you. Can we get this view and then?
Yes, I know we're trying to get very deep into the economic theories, and it's good to get back out of,
Yeah, we need to have a balance.
Yeah, the point is, we know that when you rebate, there are things that you also give away. You have to be prepared for that. Are we prepared now, as a country? Do we have that capacity to take on the excess before we get access to additional funding? So we have to look at all of these issues. So rebasing, yes. Do we get rebates? No. We have to get it. We have to get the data correct. We have to be able to make sure we have the indicative figures, data that actually speaks to the fact that you need to be able to rebate at this point. So that's I'm coming. So that's one thing I want us to be able to look at. We can look at that going forward. But there are critical things I think that we all need to look at. Just going back into the topic of diversifying and all of that. Access to finance is key.
Yeah, we're coming to
access
that.
to market.
We'll talk on that. Okay, Mr. Dennis, I take it that you have a dissenting view to what's being put forward. What's
So really, it's just a question because we talk about borrowing, and we talk about rates of return on our borrowing. But and we have to just be able to justify it. But the key is the private sector that's going to make the investment that will justify these borrowings. I just want to know what kind of policies or strategies are we going to use to attract the private sector to make the necessary investments, all right? And we talked about some fundamental issues. Hello? We talked about some fundamental issues, all right? From a private sector perspective, stability is important, all right? Predictability is also important. So what can be done to ensure private sector invest in these new infrastructure?
Specifically to that, to you, Mr. Dennis, the financial sector plays a critical role in supporting valuable projects and that support sustainable economic growth. Given the need for diversification, how adequate do you think the Liberian banking sector in providing the lifeline to the economy, given that you once served as president of the Liberian Bank for Development and Investment?
Well, right now, frankly, there's a mismatch between the type of financing that's available and what is needed to restructure this economy. Most of the financing is through deposit mobilization, mostly short-term financing. What is needed is long-term and flexible financing, all right, to get the sectors going. We talk that even the oil palm that's being promoted, all right, we talk about 3 years before we generate some return. That's not even talking about profit, it's not just generating some revenue source. That type of financing is not available domestically. We have to go again and borrow to get that type of funding externally. So we do have limited resources and also flexibility. Even on the monetary side, the central bank plays a central role in mobilizing that type of financing. Now, one of the policies of the central bank is mostly geared towards short-term lending. If a loan is in default for a few months, it is classified and it discourages lending long-term.
So do you expect any support from the central bank in helping commercial banks provide financing for investment? Do you expect
We do. We have advocated some policy changes. In the case, it's interesting to know, we talk about agriculture being key to this economy. We look at the banking portfolio, only about 10% of the lending is actually to agriculture, all right? Most of it, 40% or so, is to trade financing. That has to shift. Now, what has been done in Nigeria is that they've mandated at least 15% or a certain percentage of bank portfolio be in agriculture. Now, that does not mean that each bank has to invest in agriculture. Where a bank does not have the appetite for agriculture, they can invest that in another bank that has the mechanism and has the appetite for that kind of investment. So we think the central bank can amend its policy, and where it has where there's an agricultural portfolio, they can use different standards or measures in order to qualify the performance of a loan asset.
We have limited resources, and so we're always looking at resources to bring in as much as they can quickly, so we need it quickly. So a lot of times we accept, perhaps, when we could get that. So those are like some of the greater, and a lot of times people would say that our system may not be investment friendly. I disagree. I think that our revenue code is actually very good, but a lot of times we want to give more because the investors say they need more. And to what extent that is actually the case, we don't vet it enough. And so a lot of times we do give more incentive that someone could question, was that necessary?
Are you currently talking with your representatives?
No, we at Justice haven't done that. I think a lot of times you do have people in the various ministries and agencies that have this background. But I think Dr. King said part of the problem too is the critical understanding of these issues not there. So someone definitely has a degree that says they know this stuff, but to what extent they can add value to the process because they know it, sometimes that's the challenge.
All right, Mr. Kamara.
So a lot of bilateral arrangements that we need to take advantage of. Also, just about a year ago, the Israeli Prime Minister was here, and he offered to give their technical support and skills towards the technology that they have available. And that's another area we need to take advantage of, and that is in market marketing, and basically take advantage of our embassies, our presence in different countries, and see how we can identify markets and also potential partners which they can invest in targeted products in our country.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dennis. Anthony Dolan, what's your conservative prediction, or that weird half-crazy prediction about the fate of the Liberian economy in the medium term? What do you think? Just give us your word thought.
I think we're going to rebound. I think we're going to prosper. I think we're going to be a middle-income country. I think we're going to... no, I do. I think we're at a spot where it's not impossible to come back from, and we're recognizing that agriculture has to be our driver of growth, and putting in place those things that can move that along. And once we do that and close some of the gaps like people have identified, I do think we'll be okay and we can prosper.
Dr. Davis, what was your conservative prediction?
Well, I think the country GDP going to grow slowly with the...
That's the conservative one.
That is very, very, very conservative with the prevailing fiscal imbalances and external shocks. We need to engage in a radical transformation of the economy to be able to address some of these fiscal and monetary shocks that are coming. So if we take some hard decisions, cutting expenditure that are unnecessary, and ensuring that we put in a proper fiscal discipline, as Stanley highlighted, we can be able to, at the medium term, reverse some of the deficits that we have. But if we don't take those hard decisions, of course, our country will go into one.
So what's your prediction on the one with wide confidence interval? I mean, the one that's actually half crazy. What's your half crazy prediction about the economy?
Well, growing at a slow pace.
That's the conservative.
Growing at a slow pace. The Liberian dollar continue to depreciate. The policy we put in place to address the depreciation is just to kind of reduce the depreciation rate, not to reverse the depreciation. So if you look between now and 2023, and you look at the kind of policy we put in place to address the Liberian depreciation, it's going to depreciate up to 9 years. So if it's going to depreciate up, we're going to have the rate up to 190. All probably 200.
Mr. Kamara,
until we address those fundamentals, those critical things that will increase demand for Liberian currency, we're going to depreciate faster.
Mr. Kamara, in closing, he mentioned some radical, some audacious Bureau will sit in the next 3 to 4 years? Is it a married environment or somewhere that will be deplorable? What's your guess?
Well, let me first of all state here for the record that I believe in the change for hope mantra. There is hope at the end of the tunnel. But no country develops in the absence of a policy think tank. So it begins here, right now, that visionary could see the need to have this kind of discussion, set the stage for a more proactive solution. Never has it been done where thinking young men will decide to organize a symposium that highlights and flag contemporary issues. I must commend you people that you people need to be supported, encouraged to go more into research, because it is what will drive politics. And people will not be saying that. The other day, one of my old professors was talking about John Maynard Keynes. I thought Keynes was a desperate man. You're still talking about Keynesian economics in contemporary times? The economic was for chaos.
In the long run, we still be alive.
We will not even be alive in the long run. So, I mean, on the most serious note, I think there's hope that people who initiate the idea that we need to confront our year-old problem. It's the start of hope.
So, to you, Honorable Flomo, you here representing the fiscal arm, and this is actually in your shop. So just tell me, from what you've been looking at the Department of Economic Management, all your highly skilled economists, what's the most conservative picture you have for the economy, and what's that weird picture? What thing you think the economy will safely add that's not consistent with that conservative prediction?
I think we've been able to work with the planning unit to put together what we expect the economy to be by the plan now that we have, the 4-4 agenda. There are a couple of things that we need to consider that are very important, and I'd like to just highlight that. One is the fact that all of us here around, participating in this conversation, becomes aware. We become aware that Liberia will not move unless we play our part. So if we've done the plan, and then the plan is about to be rolled out, it will require the steps that we all need to take from our respective seats. So agriculture, yes. Infrastructure, yes. Human capital development, yes. Digitizing the economy, making sure that we have a cashless society. The minister mentioned that this morning. So that in the short run, we are actually trying to control the pressure, of the foreign exchange issues that we are having because we physically have to move cash from banks. So we believe that digitizing the economy is another component that we are going to look at. Yes, fiscal discipline. And he also mentioned, or Dennis mentioned, the small business survival, the private sector role. How do we support that? We have said, as a policy we've been discussing that those documents will be coming out, that we would like to see the private sector do more of the job, more of the activities. And we create an enabling environment so that they're able to strive and then support the economy. There's no way, I like the way he started 2006, he said the budget then on wage bill, and 2017, 2018 wage bill. It's huge. If you look at how much it was at the time, probably 25,000 people. Now we're talking about 70,000 people on government payroll. There's no way that you go to a WIAC exams and you come up with 2 students passing math and English. The minister mentioned that this morning. It's a disgrace to our country. And we were saying, when we were away at the IMF meeting, we were talking, we said maybe all of us here need to go back to our schools or
or go back to various schools, adapt a school, adapt a system, do something so that what you already know, you can impart it, even if it is for free. 1 hour, 2 hours to educate somebody so that that person, becomes, someone who is going to contribute. So human capital development is very critical because it's becoming alarming for us to go for public tests and we have only 2% passing math and English. It's something that's worrisome. So the government is looking at all of these different issues. So it's education, is the investment in climate and all of that. We're working together to make sure we can be able to invest. So in closing, all we can say to all of us is that it is now the point where we have to take it from the table. Let's take the conversation from the table and move it out to the field. And that's why we put it into action, and that's why we from the Economic Management Department of the Ministry of Finance, we are beginning these conversations, and it's not going to end in Monrovia. The concept is to move this around to, if possible, all of the counties. Let's engage the individual citizens. Let's share with them substantial information about the economic activities and what they can do to contribute towards the growth of the economy and what government is doing, so that at the end of the day, our attitude change. At the end of the day, the results we are counting, and those results will count. So again, we would like to say thank you to Limpac for giving, for setting the stage and setting the platform where we're able to come and talk about some of the issues of this report that came out. Therefore, this is just one of the reports. We commissioned another report, survey assessment, which we will be getting a report from the USAID this evening by 4 o'clock by the Economic Management team. Once that report gets adopted, we also will be looking at a comprehensive issue in the economy. So we are running fast because we want to be able to understand what are those issues that we need to be able to address and tackle to get the economy back on track so that we can survive as a country and move beyond the issue of survivability and become a rich country where we all can say, yeah, we're doing something and we're ready to do something well. That's the point. So that everyone can know that they are part of this country and they are benefiting from the wealth and the resources of the country based on the governance system and things that we put in place and supported in the country.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Provo. So now, can we take questions from the audience? 3 questions from the audience.
I'm Ernest Bafi, Deputy Minister for Operations for Ministry of National Defense. Sitting down under Mr. Thompson listening to his presentation brought a question to me. Is diversification a source for stability or growth in Liberia? Most of it, I think, will take a theoretical framework. And that's why I like Dr. Tenney's practical approach. We most often take a theoretical approach to economic problems and forget about the practical realities that exist on the ground. Now let me take you back. You take diversification, for example. We both do a knee-jerk reaction because we are constrained with foreign exchange. Therefore, we think to get foreign exchange, let's diversify the economy. And so our focus is on palm oil, because we know free foreign exchange. But what are the major framework? If you take diversification, for example, palm oil, and you talk about value addition, do you have employable skills or marketable skills that will help in adding value to that particular value addition phenomenon you're trying to drive? We forget about the issue of marketable skills that I can tell you talked about. Another thing is, we look at, is diversification going to solve the issue of poverty? I saw the correlation made by Mr. Thompson between diversification and poverty reduction in Malaysia. I'm coming to my question. Diversification to poverty reduction is such a phenomenon applicable to Liberia. We got examples to show in Lofa, for example. But my question is, because if you want me to just ask a question without having the previous, it's difficult. Yeah. So it constrains me. I might not want to ask the question because it sounds so dull and perhaps intellectual. To ask a question without the previous solution, I want to ask the question. It seems that you are very uncomfortable with my framework and my premises. So I can ask a question that will be constraining me not to lay the previous, so you can find another person to ask the question. Yeah, because I thought there's a dialogue.
Yeah, that's a dialogue.
You invited me here to do a dialogue. We are dialoguing on economic issue. I'm thinking about the stability of this country. I'm thinking from a security perspective.
It's not relying on the empirical sagacity of the matter. So there have only been one reliable or few studies on skill mismatch or educational mismatch when it comes to the Liberia labor market or the labor economies. That was done in 2014 by the ILO, the Youth and Sport Ministry, and villages. But that was a school-to-work survey. And all of that survey is, one of the findings was that unemployment for youth unemployment was not being driven because of skills mismatch. One of the main things that drove youth unemployment was the issue of experience gap. And also, from that finding, there was this recommendation of having the TVEC curriculum restructured in terms of aligning some of those educational provision with the demand side of the market. That means aligning our skill set of the supply side with the demand side of the market in terms of the kind of job we're attracting at the time. Concessions in the mining area, the kind of jobs that were coming. But then there was another study done on educational mismatch. There's a difference between skills mismatch and educational mismatch. There's another set of study that was done on educational mismatch and youth unemployment. So we come to realize that there is this mismatch in honor qualification, over qualification, and it still persists in mostly in the private sector. You come to realize that over 59% of the people that are employed, especially in public sector, are more or less honor qualified for the job they do. That means they have skills lower than the job they do and they're actually doing. And that's an issue. And we should look at that too. That's a serious issue. And I also come to realize that, think about the case in the driving the keke, the pimping. So we come to realize that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we will see that we'll be having more or less educated people, especially male, because those kids are not going to school. I shouldn't know that they don't go to school. Then what we're thinking about. So to come to my real issue, diversification in agriculture is the best driver in terms of it attracts.
And we are prepared to have that conversation because again we know that concerning the fact that conserving rice, like you said, if 200 billion is being used on rice import, and we begin to put more money into the budget to grow rice, evidently in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we have cut that amount and our balance of payments, balance of trade will improve positively. The second thing I want to say is that considering our entire budget of 570 million, for us to do more, we need to grow our tax base. Every developing country will not want to increase taxes on the people, because when you increase taxes, you discourage growth, economic growth, to a large extent. So, as far as I know, as at the time I left last task as principal director, compliance level in our entire country was below 45%. It means that about 55% of people who should be paying taxes in our country are not. So if our budget today stands at 572 million, and we have got only 45% compliance level, if we increase our compliance level to about 80%, just by doing the little things that Dr. Tenney was talking about, we will have grown our budget to close to $1 billion. We can do it. We need to start to do it and give this necessary support to the LRA and all other agencies that are involved with tax administration. Lastly, I know a lot of us have spoken about the departure of OMBIL, and we've tried to tie the depreciation in our exchange rate sometimes to the departure of OMBIL. I have had a different argument because I do know as a treasurer that the total monies that were being used by OMBIL here is just around 10%, as this report says, or even less. All their monies were being used offshore. So one of the things that we've done along with some of my colleagues from the House is to say, look, let us look at this exchange rate issue from a broader perspective. And you know one of the things we've done? We've introduced a bill on the floor that speaks about export proceeds repatriation. Now, what does that bill seek to do? It seeks to ensure that the firestones, the ArcelorMittal, and all of these guys who take away our iron ore and our gold and our diamond, when they sell them, you know what they do? They keep their monies offshore. It shows in our balance of trade that we've exported things, though, but we've not seen the real effect in terms of the economic and monetary effect in our market. So this bill is saying, Firestone, when you sell our rubber, that money should be deposited in an account in Liberia. Because, mind you, this is a sale from Liberia, and for tax purposes, we will be able to see the full amount. But beyond tax purposes, if, for example, you sold a total of 500 million in terms of iron ore, and that money is domiciled in LBDR, the first thing that happens is LBDR makes bigger business. Because to do that kind of sale, you must open an LC. And if LBDR makes 0.1% on 500 million, do you understand the ripple effect on the economy and on profitability? But beyond that point, what it does for us is when $500 million hits LBDR account, the Central Bank of Liberia gets 18% for reserve requirement. It means we have got enough hard currency to manage our foreign exchange very well. So what we are doing is, instead of us just grappling with what has happened with foreign exchange, let's take the hard decisions. Now I'm saying we will need you to at the Ministry of Finance, because investors will try to push back on us that they don't want to do it. We pass this law, and we pass it as fast as possible, and we will ensure that the Ministry of Justice and everybody else helps us in showing that the implementation is done to the letter. Thank you for giving me the time.
So, since you are on the legislative table, let's just continue. Anyway, I'm Francis Doko, representative of G County on the Waste and Finance Committee and the Commerce Committee. And Honorable Justice spoke well on the issue. And I'd like to come to the point. First, I'd like to inform Dr. Tamara that you asked a question first in the presentation, whether it was rhetorical or not, that if you have a land and you want to have an equity investment. Now, what we have done, because we said on the conference committee for the land right now, is to ensure that a compulsory clause in the law that the community, okay, whatever mining or concession going on over there, the community can maintain a 5%, at least a 5% share. That is in that law. So you can start, but that's a minimum. And there's been negotiation in that. Yes, yes. That is there, that is in that. Okay? I mean, the share of the value of what which has happened in that community or forest or land area. So it's there. And we hope we have a printed soon here in San already.
Let me see. We're talking about our decision to diversify, but in our policy, I'd like to see the driver of the decision. Now, I remember sometime back in India, one of the prime ministers in Indira Gandhi had a rice policy that projected that within 5 years in Indian history, they would not accept importation of rice. That was announced in advance, even though she was assassinated, I understand, because of that. But I'm talking about making a decision in advance. Now, if I know that you have a policy to invest clearly into cocoa in this country, or you give preference to cocoa farmers, I will be in Liberia County making the biggest cocoa farm. You know why? Because I've seen the government policy that in this time, this is where we're going. If you, I think a question was asked, locally, like Dr. Tenney said, the small one. If you're telling me that you want to read, because of the balance of payment is not payable for us, so we have more import. If you'll be investing into local produce, I will see that in your fiscal stand. That is your budget. In your budget framework paper, we at the National Legislature, we see that your spending issue will be directed to 35% or 50% to one local produce. On the basis of that, for example, we have companies here that are doing chalk. Local company producing chalk in Limpac County. Then we have Ministry of Education going to procure chalk for import. So you can make all of the big English about diversification or so, but the simple policy too, the action that you're taking. What is that? Public interest stream of regulation below that. You want to take some action that protect the local industry. Today, we're trying to be globalized, so those things that protect our local industry, we remove them. So the big man will not bring a machine in that to produce rice, because you know you're not going to protect him after you bring all of the machinery here. You will bring the machinery here to produce rice, then you'll get APT to go import rice. So we're going to be very clear on the policy direction to the extent that it protects us as a people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's take it.
We also commend the panelists. Thank you for your critical thinking and the pragmatic solution that you have proposed. My name is Lola. I'm from ECOWAS office here in Liberia. Now, there are some salient issues that were raised, which I thought I should just make one or two comments from the ECOWAS perspective. Now, the role of the government. We all know the role of the government is not for business. Government does not involve itself in business because they are not for that purpose. What do? They are to provide conducive environment for business to thrive through legislation. Luckily enough, we have some of our legislators here. So this is what government does. The private sector is the drive, is the engine room to economic improvement and prosperity. So there is need to empower the private sector. We have engaged with the Liberian Chamber of Commerce. I'm very appreciative of your presence that you are here. These are some of the issues we raised with the Liberian Chamber of Commerce. Then I would have been very happy if those from Ministry of Agriculture are actually here. Because one thing we all agree is that agriculture is the future of the economic development of this country. Then those in the Ministry of Agriculture have a lot to do. What do? Now, we are cooperating with them with National Seed Board. I don't know if you are all aware of the existence of this board, National Seed Board. What do? We are able to cooperate with them so that they can produce genetically modified seeds that can withstand any adversity in the terrain Unfortunately, I can't find any member of that board here, which will have assisted our discussion. Equally speaking, we have also advised them to get in touch with other similar nationalistic boards that we have in 15-member countries of ECOWAS. I'm sure they have not done that. I'm not trying to reprimand them openly, but what I'm trying to say is that if there's a way we can push them, they also have a role to play. Equally speaking, is the Farmers Union Network.
So the panelists,